Alright, back with another video. I had a friend recommend that I sort of break these videos up. So this video is just going to be a deck profile. And then if you guys want to see gameplay or prefer it separated, feel free to let me know. But this is a deck profile on a Naya token Transmogrify deck that I've been having some decent success with. And it's pretty fun to play. But yeah, let's hop into it. The mana base is a little bit sus. I'm trying to play 3 colors in Chain of the Rocks, which is sort of difficult. So I have a lot of tap lands. I have 4 Jetmare Garden, 4 Fabled Passage. Definitely not great. Could use some work. I'm not exactly sure how to change it. Like, I'm pretty happy with it for what it is. But yeah, I'll try to go explain some of the choices. I guess I'll start with the mana base. I have a Boseiju, a Sokinzon, and a Iganjo. I don't think I would ever cut the Sokinzon. I do think you could maybe cut the Boseiju and Iganjo, so that's a place to start if you want to fiddle with the mana base. You could also probably just not play the full 4 Fabled Passage. I think that's something else you could do. I would probably always play the 4 Gardens if you want to do the Chain of the Rock stuff. I think I have 18 Mountains, which maybe is too many. Maybe you could trim down, but I would rather have a high amount of Mountains because I want to be able to cast Chain of the Rocks early, obviously. I have Branch Loft Pathway over something like Temple Garden because I already have 8 shock lands and I don't want to take a bunch of damage off of my mana base. So that's the main reason those are there, and then some brush lands. So I don't want fast lands. I don't want a ton of shock lands. So I just have these lands that aren't going to deal me too much damage that will hopefully come into play untapped on turn 4 when I need my fourth mana. So other than that, there's a random Restless Prairie. Because you can just amass a pretty big board of tokens, so you can get a lot of value from that. And then instead of having Fountain Port, I have Mirrex for the obvious reason of it can make mana. So if I have Fountain Port, I cannot cast things like Lightning Helix on turn 2. Also, it's minor, but it can be relevant that it can help you cast a Trax off of like a treasure from Fable the Mirror Breaker and a Mirrex, so that's really nice. But the Mirrex is mostly there to trigger your Caretaker's Talent on your opponent's turn, and it also just lets you set up Transmogrifies. So this deck has a lot of like synergy and overlap, cool things going on, which is part of why I wanted to throw up this deck profile. Because I was building a deck like this and I just didn't have Transmogrify in it. And I pretty quickly realized, like, why am I not just doing that in addition to this other stuff? Like, I want to do token stuff. Fable the Mirror Breaker is obviously just, like, the best Garden Pioneer. So, wanted to play that. Already had red in my deck, so that's how we ended up here. And then there's some Careful Cultivation, which is a card you've probably seen before in Transmogrify decks, but it gets added value from just being a flash token maker. All the flash token makers give a ton of extra value with Caretaker's Talent because you just get to draw the extra card. And then probably the most, I don't know if questionable is the word, but I think maybe the worst card in the main deck is Wedding Announcement. Not because it's bad, but I'm just not convinced that it's necessary. You have so many ways to make tokens. I think that this could maybe just be another removal spell, but I didn't want to overdo it for if you play against something like Control. But it's possible Control is just such a bad matchup. You shouldn't worry about it too much. Another one of the cool tech cards is Incandescent Aria, which is a Naya sorcery that deals 3 to all non-tokens. So if you're playing against an aggro deck, which there are a ton of at the moment, part of why I built my deck the way I did was there's so many aggro decks and things like Sacrifice. So this can be nice to clear the board, and then you get to keep your tokens to Transmogrify later. Going back to the point of there being a lot of aggro decks, Chain of the Rocks and Portable Hole. Portable Hole is nice because it can deal with some of the permanents in the Sacrifice decks, as well as just being decent against aggro. You're somewhat vulnerable to Slickshot Show Off, but you still have Lightning Helix and Wandering Emperor. So, and if you just put a Trax into play, most of these aggro decks obviously can't beat a Giant Lifelinker. But yeah, a lot of the games you don't have to do the Transmogrify thing. We are playing Yorion, which I'm not sure if that's necessary or correct. But I wanted to play Wandering Emperor, and that means I can't play Giganta. And obviously, Companion is busted in half, so Went for Yorion this time. It's really good with the Seeker's Chariot. You can even get value from Wandering Emperor. You have plenty little plenty permanents in play. Also, you can just like trigger your Caretaker talent and then blink it, plus a thing that makes a token, draw an extra card. So you can see how that could get out of hand. And I think that's it for the main deck. I tried to tune this to the meta I've been playing against. It's played out pretty well. I've been happy with most of these numbers. Like I said, just a ton of aggro and sack decks online, so that's part of why it's built the way it is. And then side deck, I don't exactly know what I want to change. The sideboard is built in a very straightforward way. I've Rest in Peace for Phoenix, and I found this to be really useful versus the sacrifice decks. It stops Cat Oven stuff. It stops the class from being able to like mill and that mattering and reanimating an Igra. Also, some of the time your opponent puts Igra into play. Like I've had this happen where my opponent plays Igra, I have Rest in Peace, and then now all my tokens are foods and they don't grow the Igra. So since this deck's capable of making so many tokens, you can just chump the 6/6, gain 3. It doesn't even grow, and you can just sort of stall out the game and eventually win with a Caretaker's Talent. But yeah, there's other graveyard decks like Greasefang and stuff. So I've been happy with 4 Rest in Peace, 4 Bankbuster. This is just for mostly control, but you can put it in against like red-black midrange if that's a thing you play against. And then Knockout Blows, which are obviously for the Bushwhack or the Burning Tree Emissary decks, and then the Slickshot Show-Off decks, which are both relatively popular. It seems like the Slickshot Show-Off decks are a little more popular, but that's what those are for. And then I have a Rending Volley, mostly for Phoenix, but this can go in a few different places. Like there's just things like you can board it in versus Heroic. Maybe that's a bad example, but there are some other decks I can't think of at the moment that it can be useful against. Like it kills Greasefang, kills Ledger Shredder. It can be good against like Mono White Humans, stuff like that. So probably the 2 most replaceable cards are Rending Volley, and then I have this Tech Paw Patch formation that I'm just trying. It's kind of a flexible card. Obviously, I don't want to put creatures in my deck because I have Transmogrify. It can make a token at instant speed, so you end up drawing 2 cards if you have Caretaker's Talent. And yeah, I can blow up Slickshot Show-Offs and just like Angels is the deck some people play, so you can use this to deal with an Angel. Rending Volley is another card that can go in versus Angels. And then the Yorion. So the side deck's kind of boring, but I'm pretty happy with these cards. I don't feel like I'm missing out on too much. If Control became popular, I guess I would maybe make the Rending Volley and the Paw Patch formation some other grindy stuff. But you already have all these cards that are pretty decent versus Control, like Seeker's Chariot and Caretaker Talent, Fable the Mirror Breaker. So, yep. But that's the deck. Wanted to make a quick video and try a slightly different formatting, so let me know if you like it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.